in the league in regards to Clark, starting with WNBA legend Cheryl Swoops herself. She recently spoke on her podcast, Queens of the Court, and didn't mention the rookie when speaking of Indiana's rise in the standings.
Something massive is brewing just beneath the surface of professional women's basketball, and the truth is finally spilling out into the open in a way nobody could have predicted or even thought possible. For months, fans have watched, with a mix of absolute awe and deep confusion, as the most celebrated rookie in the history of the sport stepped onto the professional court, only to be met with a bizarre, highly coordinated wall of hostility. Everyone saw the cheap shots, the aggressive press conferences, and the unmistakable eye rolls from veterans who had played in empty gyms for over a decade. But what looked like simple competitive jealousy on television was actually masking a highly orchestrated, behind-the-scenes mutiny that almost brought the entire league to a grinding halt. Rumors of secret meetings, locker room ultimatums, and a deep-seated resentment against the new face of the franchise have been circulating in the dark corners of the sports world for a while, leaving fans wondering what was really happening when the cameras stopped rolling. It wasn't until legendary sports analyst Stephen A. Smith completely went off script and confirmed the unthinkable that the pieces finally fell into place. According to the whispers and recently surfaced audio leaks, a powerful coalition of veteran players were so enraged by the spotlight shifting away from them that they actually threatened to strike if the rookie continued to receive preferential treatment. The sheer scale of this internal sabotage is mind-boggling, especially when you consider that this one player single-handedly pulled the organization out of financial ruin. But the rabbit hole of jealousy and power struggles goes far deeper than just a few angry veterans. And to truly understand how a professional league almost cannibalized its own savior, we have to go back to the moment the resentment first took root. Before the draft even occurred, anyone paying close attention could clearly see the signs. Attention to the subtle jabs thrown by the old guard of the sport. Legends of the game were already taking to national television to issue cryptic warnings, claiming that reality was coming for the new college sensation and implying that she wouldn't survive the brutal physicality of the professional ranks. At the time, fans brushed these comments off as standard competitive trash talk, the kind of tough love you expect veterans to give incoming rookies. But insiders knew it was the beginning of a coordinated psychological campaign designed to protect the fragile egos of players who had been ignored by the mainstream media for their entire careers. The historical context here is incredibly important because for nearly 3 decades, women in this league were fighting a losing battle against terrible television ratings, dismal merchandise sales, and an overall lack of public interest. They were forced to fly commercial, sleep in crowded airport terminals, and even travel overseas during the off-season to play in dangerous foreign leagues, just to make a living wage. They suffered through these grueling conditions for years, constantly begging the league executives for better marketing and higher pay, only to be told the money simply wasn't there. Then, out of nowhere, a 22-year-old girl from the Midwest shatters every collegiate viewership record in existence and brings an absolute tidal wave of unprecedented wealth and global attention straight to their doorstep. You would think the veterans would be throwing a parade for the person who finally answered their prayers, but human nature is rarely that logical. When the rookie finally signed her groundbreaking multi-million-dollar sneaker deal, before even playing a single professional game, the tension in the locker rooms reportedly snapped. Players who had spent 15 years grinding for pennies were suddenly watching a rookie completely monopolize the global market. And instead of riding the wave, they chose to build a massive dam of resentment. The league was suddenly flooded with unprecedented cash, resulting in the immediate implementation of private charter flights, which was a luxury the veterans had literally been protesting to get for over a decade. Yet, instead of thanking the catalyst for this massive upgrade, a deeply bitter narrative began to spread rapidly behind closed doors. Whispers in the tunnel suggested that the veterans felt deeply disrespected, believing the league only cared about their safety and comfort once a specific demographic's favorite player arrived on the scene. This toxic mixture of financial envy and bruised egos created a powder keg of resentment that was desperately waiting for a spark. The older players felt that their years of blood, sweat, and tears were being completely erased from history, replaced by the media's obsession with a player who hadn't even proven herself in the professional ranks yet. It was a classic case of misplaced anger. Instead of being furious at the front office for ignoring them all those years, they directed all their venom straight at the rookie, and it didn't take long for that psychological warfare to manifest violently on the hardwood. As the season officially tipped off, it became chillingly obvious that an unspoken bounty had been quietly placed on the rookie's head. Fans, tuning in to witness highly anticipated matchups, were instead treated to a barrage of unprovoked physical assaults that looked more like a wrestling match than a professional basketball game. We all remember the infamous blindside hip check that sent her crashing violently to the floor while the ball wasn't even in play, a moment that completely shattered the illusion of a welcoming sisterhood within the league. What made these incidents so deeply shocking wasn't just the blatant aggression, but the terrifying complicity of the officials and league executives, who absolutely refused to step in and stop it. It was as if a silent agreement had been reached across the entire association to let the veterans haze the newcomer without any fear of suspension, heavy fines, or severe penalties. Veteran players were seen literally cheering from the bench when the rookie was knocked down, and post-game press conferences devolved into passive-aggressive masterclasses, where rivals actively refused to even say her name into the microphone. The undeniable reality was that the league's most profitable asset in its entire history was being actively hunted on the court, and the powers that be were perfectly fine letting it happen to appease the dangerous egos of the old guard. They wanted to humble her, to break her spirit, and to send a message to the world that this was still their league, regardless of whose name was printed on the back of the best-selling jerseys. But while the physical attacks were broadcasted for the entire world to see in high definition, the true betrayal was being quietly orchestrated in high-rise boardrooms, where the most devastating blow to her career was being meticulously planned out. The ultimate slap in the face came when the roster for the grandest international stage in sports was